There's something you've been ignoring for a long time. You feel it in your chest every morning. You drag it through the silence where you pretend everything's fine. You swallow it with every automatic, "I'm okay," you say to the world. And the cruelest part is, no one seems to notice. Functioning has become your disguise. You show up, respond, smile when you're supposed to, but inside, you're exhausted. Not from doing too much, but from forcing what no longer flows. From pushing on locked doors, from trying to control the uncontrollable. And here's the most absurd part. You don't even know why you keep pushing. You just know that if you stop, something might break. Or at least that's what you believe. Because they taught you that if you're not running, you're falling behind. That if you're not constantly fighting, you don't deserve what you have. So you live like this, in constant tension. As if life were a battle with no pause. As if stopping for 1 second meant betraying your dreams. But what if all of that was a lie? What if the real trap isn't being still, but forcing motion when what you truly need is to stop? Because what you call effort might just be noise. Noise that keeps you from hearing what your soul has been whispering for ages. You're tired of pretending you've got it all under control. And that doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. What's truly destructive is pretending everything fits just because you're forcing it to. What's truly dangerous is confusing tension with direction, exhaustion with purpose, resistance with courage. Alan Watts said it without sugarcoating. The desire for security and the feeling of control are the true roots of fear. You're not failing. You're just trapped in a system that promised peace but sold you anxiety. The problem isn't that you haven't arrived. The problem is, you never stopped to ask where you were going. Because when you stop forcing, it's not the world that collapses, it's the mask. And right there, in the middle of that collapse, is where your freedom begins. Do you know what's the most silent trap they taught you as a child? That if you stop insisting, everything falls apart. That if you don't hold the world together, no one else will. They programmed you to run, to produce, to push. And now you're paying for it, with your body, your mind, your soul. Because living in constant force isn't living. It's surviving with style. It's dragging yourself forward with a smile. It's carrying an invisible weight no one sees, but you feel every night before you sleep. And the worst part? You don't even know what it feels like to live without it. Have you ever allowed yourself not to push, not to fight, not to control? Have you ever tried trust? I'm not talking about resignation. I'm talking about letting go, about stepping back. Taking your hands off everything that doesn't need to be controlled. Because even if it's hard to accept, not everything depends on you. And that's not weakness. That's freedom. Of course, your mind resists. Because you've spent so long believing you're the engine behind everything. That slowing down feels like betrayal. As if letting go meant disappearing. As if doing nothing meant being nothing. You've confused your worth with your productivity. You've tied your self-esteem to the outcome. And now, you don't even know who you are if you're not chasing something. This video isn't here to make you give up. It's here to make you wake up. To look with brutal honesty at that part of you that's already tired of pushing without direction. To understand that life doesn't need to be forced. It just needs you to step out of the way. What if you let go and nothing happens? No. The real question is, what if you don't let go and break from the inside? Because it will happen. The body screams. The mind shuts down. The soul burns out. No one can live in conflict with themselves forever. So before you keep pushing with clenched teeth, ask yourself this. What are you avoiding with all this motion? What truth don't you want to face when everything is still? What would happen if, just for once, you chose not to force anything? Because maybe, just maybe, the universe isn't against you. It's just waiting for you to stop getting in the way. Nothing to chase, nothing to fix, just a space, empty. And that's exactly where most people break. Because they built their identity around urgency, productivity, and constant doing as proof of worth. You were taught to move like you were always running from something, but no one told you what. So I'll tell you now, you're not running from failure. You're running from yourself, from your inner voice, from the thoughts that get loud when everything else goes quiet, from that silent mirror that appears only when you stop and forces you to face who you are without roles, without tasks, without anyone to impress. No masks, no results to show, no goals to use as an excuse for existing. And that's brutal. They programmed you to believe you're only worth what you do, that you only deserve love, respect, rest, if you earn it through constant sacrifice. But here comes the question that breaks that whole narrative. What if the most valuable thing about you can't be measured? What if your real power isn't in speed, but in stillness? What if who you truly are, that part no one has ever destroyed, only shows up when you stop running? When you release control, when you slow down, you access a different dimension of yourself. Not a weaker one, not a lazy one, a deeper one, a truer one. A dimension ruled not by noise, but by presence, by the art of being without doing, by the simplicity of breathing without proving anything, without fixing anything. And for many people, that's unbearable, because stillness is like emotional nakedness. You see yourself, you feel yourself, you hear yourself, and you can't run anymore. That's why most people never stop. Not because of ambition, not because of passion, but because of escape, because constant motion numbs, because stillness forces you to face yourself, and what's inside is scary. But listen closely. That's exactly where real flow begins. Because flow doesn't mean drifting without direction. It means aligning with something wiser than your control. A kind of intelligence that doesn't push, doesn't shout, doesn't rush. It just waits. And do you know what the first sign is that you've started to flow? The loss of fear toward emptiness. The ability to be present without needing to fill every second. The trust that even in stillness, something is happening. Because life doesn't need you to push it. It only needs you not to get in the way. The problem is, we don't trust that. We struggle deeply to accept that growth can happen in the pause. Because everything, absolutely everything, in this society is designed to equate progress with hustle, constant movement, immediate results, increasingly aggressive rhythms. But nature, which never lies, tells a different story. Look at the bamboo. It spends years growing underground before the first shoot appears. Years with nothing visible. Years of silent preparation. And when it finally breaks the surface, it grows faster than any other plant. And you? How much have you grown without anyone noticing? How many internal battles have you fought in silence? How many layers have you shed without a single round of applause? That, too, is evolution. That, too, is transformation. And it happens, without forcing. Of course, it doesn't shine. It can't be posted. It doesn't fit on a resume. And because of that, the world doesn't value it. But you know. You feel it. Something in you has been rewired. Something changed while you were in silence, while you were holding yourself up from within without needing an audience. And that thing no one sees, is the most real thing you have. because that's the power of no longer forcing. Your transformation becomes intimate, authentic, irreversible. You no longer change to prove anything. You change because you finally understand you have nothing to prove. The old paradigm breaks. It's no longer about competing, achieving, or dominating. It's about liberation, about reclaiming your center, about no longer living to be seen, but living to be whole. And here comes something even more powerful. When you stop forcing, it's not just you who changes. Everything around you begins to shift. Because your energy transforms. You stop spreading tension, and you stop vibrating from fear, and you begin to radiate calm. Without realizing it, you become a mirror of serenity for those around you. And that impact, even if you can't see it right away, is immense. Because we're all tired of speed. We're all hungry for someone to show us it's possible to live differently. That not everything has to be urgent. That you don't have to always be running to have value. That it's okay to breathe and still move forward. That you can let go and still build. When you embody that, when you stop forcing and begin to trust, you become living proof that another way of living is possible. And do you realize how powerful that is? But be careful. It's not an easy path. It takes a different kind of courage. Not the kind that pushes, the kind that knows how to wait. Because true bravery isn't found in the one who speeds ahead endlessly. It's found in the one who can remain still when everything inside screams to move. Saying, "I don't know what's coming, but I'm ready to receive it without forcing," is one of the bravest things you can offer yourself. And it's right there, in that space between control and trust, where the magic begins. Where what once seemed blocked begins to flow. Where the pieces that never fit suddenly fall into place, without effort, without pressure, only alignment. This is where the opportunities that once slipped through your fingers begin to appear. Not because you chase them, but because you stop scaring them away with your desperation. You no longer act from lack, you move from wholeness. You no longer beg, you invite. You no longer chase, you magnetize. The universe doesn't respond to the scream. It responds to the frequency. And when you let go, that frequency shifts. You stop broadcasting urgency and begin to emit presence. You stop vibrating with anxiety and begin to vibrate with clarity. It's like changing the music you play to the world. And when the music changes, everything around you shifts too. Can you see it now? Control was never power. Forcing was never progress. What truly transforms isn't desperate effort. It's deep alignment with who you are. You're not here to control life. You're here to co-create with it, and that begins the moment you release the wheel. Not to crash, but to realize you were never driving alone. Life always had a route for you. It just needed you to stop blocking it. And now that you're here, at the end of this path, I want you to do something small, but powerful. Pause. Not physically. Pause internally. Notice what you're feeling in this exact moment. If something inside you stirred, even a sigh, a hint of discomfort, a small crack in that armor you've been wearing, then there's no turning back. Something has already begun to shift, and that shift, even if you can't see it yet, is already shaping what comes next. Real transformation never makes noise. It doesn't arrive with applause. It arrives as a whisper that begins to grow right after silence. It's a seed that was planted today, and it will sprout every time life tries to push you back into force. Because now, you know there's another way, and that awareness, no one can take it from you. Your reality aligns when you align with yourself. And to align with yourself, you must stop pushing where there's no more path. You must release the goals that no longer represent you. Release the relationships you're holding on to out of habit. Release the ideals you've carried for so long. You forgot where they came from. You must give yourself permission to simply be, without doing, without running, without proving anything. And that, even though it may sound simple, is an act of brutal power. Because the world doesn't know what to do. With someone who no longer needs to prove anything, who doesn't justify, who no longer plays the urgency game or lives for applause. We were taught that power lies in force, in persistence, in control. But there's a power far more real, more rare, more dangerous. The power of someone who trusts their process so deeply they no longer chase, they allow, who no longer forces themselves to fit, because they've understood that what is truly meant for them doesn't need to be chased. It only needs space to appear. And if you're here reading this, it's not a coincidence. Something inside you asked for this pause, this reflection, this reminder. Now I invite you to leave a mark, not for me, for you. Write one phrase in the comments. I'm ready to release control. Write it even if you've never commented before. Because it's not just a sentence, it's a ritual, a symbolic act. Your first step into a life where you no longer need to force, where you stop running, where you stop being what's expected, and start becoming who you truly are. And if this video stirred something in you, if it hurt in the right way, if you feel like a door just opened inside of you, then subscribe. Not because I'm asking, but because here, we say the truths no one else dares to touch. We're not here to entertain your ego. We're here to disturb your soul, so it finally wakes up. And if you know someone who's been living on autopilot for years, pushing, forcing, barely holding it all together through exhaustion, send them this video. No explanation. Just send it and watch what happens. And now, I leave you with this. Don't force the ending. Don't chase the answers. Flow like you already know. Walk like you're not in a hurry. Act like it's already yours, because what's meant for you is already on its way. And when it arrives, it won't ask if you're ready. It will just knock on your door. And for the first time, you'll be at peace to open it. I'll see you in the next video. Or maybe not. Maybe the next time you hear my voice, you won't need it anymore.